Yes, thinking outside the box. It's always a good thing to do. You can see there's an object right here. This was the last picture I took before I left, and this is an enhanced version, but you can obviously see the boat well beyond. Um, Now, I did take this footage with, well, this part's with my cell phone, um, but I did take some footage with uh, my B700 Nikon camera. It's got some of the same features that the P1000 has, but it doesn't have all of them. I wish I had the option of turning up and down the light um, and changing things. What you're seeing right there is actually Billy Steele's rack. And again, somebody'd say, well, look, see, it's being cut off by um, the curvature of Earth. But you'll see in some of my other videos with my camera actually even lower, you'll see more and more of this. Um, and in my opinion, it's due to, some of this mirroring. Also, it's due to the farther it is out in the distance, it's getting magnified more. So it's actually being um, or appearing. It just creates this illusion of it going below the curvature of this supposed curvature of the water, which really to me is just a really a bunch of bull crap, because once you're out there and you do these observations on a constant basis, as you well know that I do, um, you start to see the difference in visibility. All right, this is the Hernando Beach rack. Um, and, one of the things I want to show is how it changes. So when I get to the Hernando Beach Islands, and I want to be kind of clear about that. They do go off on a little bit of an angle, but this main spot that I'm always filming, this little gap in between, uh, it's really one of the bigger islands that's out there, or has the tallest mangrove trees. Um, but again, you can see these boats are clearly in the water, and this is one of the good things about not zooming in too far, because they don't pick up as much of that distortion, and you can still see the boat in pretty good view. With the P1000, I zoom in and I do pick up a lot more of the distortion, but distortion occurs all the time, and at different times. Sometimes you get this crystal clear view of the Bayport rack, entrance rack, and it will look pristine. But one of the things I say when I see these is, compared to other shots, clean shots too, it's much bigger. And this is where, this magnification comes in. And when I notice when it's much bigger, the horizon doesn't seem to, it seems to be more compressed. Um, so all the water is getting compressed down, and I mean compressed hard. Um, and that's what makes the boats look stretched out and elongated, where in all reality they wouldn't be unless they were being compressed. And this magnification pulls things up, down, left, and right. It pulls it in all directions. Another thing you'll notice too is the diffraction of the water sometimes, and that diffraction, or the distorted edge of the visible water, is distorted. And when we have that distortion, it does cut more of it off. Now, here's that island, and here's that gap. And later on, I'll show you where my camera is. But as I pan to the left, You know, you see these boats, or you see these uh, channel markers clearly in the water without any mirroring. The mirroring goes farther back and forth. Okay, it does both. Um, and it depends on, okay, again, the visibility that we have. All right, I'm going to go to some natural audio.
Y'all both look.
Where is that spot? Well, yeah, in the wrong area.
I just want to know what's going on.
All right, here's one of the closer edges to me before I get out to that open water. And this is something I always pay attention to too, is how where the water line is to that edge of that land mass right there, that big pile of mangroves. Um, and also, if you noticed right there, there was a little bit of mirroring. And sometimes I notice the farther I go to the south, I start getting mirroring, but then sometimes I get out of that mirroring real quick too. Sometimes it just happens in just a split second. And when a boat goes in that area, as you will later see in the second part of this, because I'm going to make one part and then I'm going to make another one. Um, but you'll see how that mirroring really reacts to some of these boats. Now, this boat you can see starting out right here, and it's clearly again in the water. Now, that little gap in on that big island is 4.84 miles away. I believe, or you know, you could say 4.8 miles away. And I do have my camera set low. You know how I mean, I like to call myself the low perspective guy because I'm always trying to get my camera, or I always leave it at the 28-inch setting, and then I usually try to get it as close to the water as possible without actually putting it in water because, of course, I'm here in salt water, and salt water will eat my tripod up. So, I mean, I've already got a lot of rust on it from just putting it in the water a couple of times. Even though I rinsed it off at the beach there, um, it's still, you know, that salt water gets in there and it still eats up your screws and your springs. And um, so I had some issues. So I recently bought another tripod. I'm hoping it's going to be good and sturdy. And I bought some other equipment that, um, yeah, another almost another $1,000. So I am not going to quit doing these observations. And I'm going to start doing some more star observations too. Doing like time lapses of the Milky Way. Because I got myself, um, it's called an Star Adventure Pro Pack. Um, it is kind of like a, um, oh, God, it's on the tip of my tongue. You know what everybody says, equatorial mount. It's kind of like an equatorial mount. So, um, you know, whether or not that matters, because they say, oh, you know, it's based on a curved Earth. I really don't believe that it does, but check out these people on this sailboat too. You know, look how small they are. Now, yeah, I am using the B700, but I've gotten video with the B700, with the P900 when I had that, and the P1000, where, you know, these boats sometimes you'll see just the people walking on top of the water and you won't see their boat at all. And everybody says, oh, there's proof of curvature. But again, I look at it and I compare it to other footage where I do see people on the boat, clearly similar to this, and you can still see their whole entire boat. But the people are actually even smaller. But when it's being cut off, they're big. I mean, it's like the boat's real close, but it's just being cut off. But the people are bigger. In other words, it's being magnified like a son of a gun. you know. And another thing I'm always talking about is the birds give it away too. As far as people saying that waves don't block out parts of the boat, you can actually see it blocking out part of this boat in a sense. But as these birds bob up and down in those little waves, sometimes they'll totally disappear depending on how far they are out from you. But I've got some pretty good footage of showing birds out there bobbing in the waves and completely disappearing and then popping back up and down, up and down. Um, just like if you're a person that watches The Deadliest Catch. They show you out there in real rough water, uh, um, how, they'll be filming from another boat, and one minute you'll see this big ship, and I mean, these are big ships. These aren't little crab boats. These are big, huge crab boats. Um, and you'll see them go out there, and one minute you'll see them, and the next minute you won't. So people can't say that waves cannot block out boats. And that's what happens when people are filming ships, especially on the East Coast, or anywhere where there's heavy running water or deep water and there's more waves and swells, because that creates that mirroring effect that I talk about, and actually too the magnification also plays a role in it. You have multiple optical effects that literally cut off your visibility. It obscures your visibility. Distortion is one of them, obviously. Um, and then, of course, like I say, the magnification pulls things in closer, but it pulls them down, left and right, and up. So, yes, they can be stretched. But things can get compressed too, um, all depending on the day, how much magnification, how much distortion, and even how much mirroring is being created out there. And this is why I say that a lot of times I think when I'm filming, especially during the summer, I'm getting a lot of magnification, and because of all the humidity. And what is humidity? Evaporated water molecules. you know, uh, and I can tell this time of the year, it's hot and humid out there, and I put my camera up high. Okay, I can bring my camera up higher, much higher than I had my camera this particular day, and I can't even see the islands. They're totally obscured by refraction. And again, I say refraction because I think they really do um, split up, um, or actually flip flopped what refraction actually is. It's not what we think it is, or it's not what we've been taught it is, or told it is, because we've never been shown that it is. All right, I got to bring this up because right here I'm going to use a zoom tool. Look at how far this other boat is, well behind this sailboat. Now, this sailboat is probably 4.5 miles, if not farther away as it is. And look at that other boat. Now, I'm going to use the zoom tool, pull it in, and my P1000 would probably pull this in closer. But Look, you can still see this boat completely out of the water. Completely. Now, if that other boat was 4, 5 miles out, then how far is this boat? This boat has got to be 7, 8, 9, possibly even 10 miles out. So, when you compare that boat, that sailboat, to that big crab boat or shrimp boat, um, there's a big difference in size. And size is perspective, right? An object closer um, is much bigger than, even if you had the same size sailboat back there, it would be smaller, right? So what if the farther back it gets, you get that more magnification? Well, then it's going to start looking like the bottom of the hull is going to be getting cut off. Um, and obviously, it is not. Um, and again, even the crab traps, you look at this crab trap and compare it to the guy on the boat. And that crab trap's quite a ways from me, too. It's probably a mile offshore, if not more. So, uh, again, perspective is something funny. And then here again, you get another boat. He's closer, but you see the entire boat in the water. That's why this particular day, I actually wish I wouldn't have, and I hate to admit it, but I had my tripod for it, but I forgot my P1000 at home. Um, I kind of left it in my house. I brought it all in the house, gave my dog some loving before I left, and grabbed what I could and took it out to the truck, turned on the key, and left, and forgot that I left my other um, backpack with my other camera in it, the P1000. So um, here I was stuck with just using the B700 this particular day. Like I said, I hate to admit it, but it's true. It's what happened. And I was going to let more of the natural audio play in this, but I guess I'm going to blabbermouth all the way through it. But it is pretty cool um, when you take into consideration how low my camera actually is. And you'll see, um, I'll be showing that, and I'll even leave some of the audio up on that, so you'll be able to hear what I'm saying just before I use that. Now, here again is the Hernando Beach Rack. Now, before I was calling this Billy Steele's, but that is the Hernando Beach Rack. And yes, it's a little distorted. And some of my other footage, I've got it pristine, beautiful, very clear, no distortion. And it's awesome. Because again, I tell you, when you do these observations and do them over and over, it really does all have. Now I use the zoom tool on that part too. It really does have what I call um, better uh, better resolution sometimes. But it is all about the visibility um, and what creates visibility. Well, you can go on to almost any website, and it will tell you, um, air temperature, uh, you know, water temperature, dry air is going to give you the best visibility. But you kind of laugh when you find out how they actually do their visibility test. They do it in a very short distance. Research that too. Now here comes another video. I think this is going to be um, the last part of this. At least I hope so. Um, they're like 13 minutes each, and I'm at 20 minutes, so maybe they're maybe there is a little longer one in here. Um, but again, you gotta laugh because I'm sitting on the shore and I cannot see this boat, folks. I definitely cannot see this boat um, from my height. Now I'm bent down with my camera, probably either sitting on a little stem wall of the concrete um, that sticks out of the seawall, or I'm sitting in my little short lounge chair or lawn chair, down low with my camera. And like I say, other days, this boat would be cut off and I wouldn't see nothing but the sail part. I'd see the post and his sails. Other than that, I would not see the boat or the people. So again, what causes that? The globetrotter, crybabies, ball babies, parrot heads, brain dead, idiot, shadow banners. They'll all say, "Oh, it's refraction pulling that boat up." Why, wait, why, you stupid and uneducated? Yeah, look at the refraction of the sun right there when it was in the. I I actually try to get people to pause it there sometimes and look how that light is actually reflecting up, which up means it's going to block things out. Another thing that I want to tell you is before I let this natural audio go on here, is the mirroring effect causes a ramping up effect. It's like this. The mirroring is caused by so much humidity or evaporation rate going over the surface of the water that it creates this angle of a mirror, and that is what cuts a lot of stuff off that's out in the distance. Here's the natural audio coming up. I'll stop now.
That was dirty. I'm gonna go wash it off. Come here now.
Y'all see that sailboat out there?
Where? Point in a direction.
Yeah.
Just to the left of where the sun is.
I can no, I can see it in the sun. Either
Okay.
blocking, I don't see it.
I just figured you guys were up higher. You might be able to see it.
No, I can't see
Blinded.
it. I'm blinded by that sun.
Blinded by the light.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I track these boats, and when they get into that light, it's
Yeah.
really hard to see them. Man, this is bird heaven today.
Yeah.
Look at them all back that way. Holy smokes.
Yeah, there's a lot of them.
Yeah, I wonder if I can pick up some of them on my phone here.
With the baby?
Let me see if I can.
You want to sit with the baby? Yeah. Sit with the baby. Look. Not coming now. Stick your ass right there.
These birds.
Stop it. You're going to get caught. You're going to get them on the corner. I'm going to keep your ass. Look. I need the camera. Look at the
Tons of them out there.
Look up and see my cheese. Look up and say cheese.
Hundreds, if not thousands of them.
Hey. Up ahead. In this way. Susie, look up. Look at the camera.
Wow.
Look at the picture. Look. Look at it. No, I was pulling it on.
Also, I need to show My camera's not as low as it was yesterday, but I'm still pretty low. 2-3 feet above the water. Tracking this. Focusing here. Sailboat. I'm still pretty low. 2-3 feet above the water. Tracking this. Am I focusing here? Sailboat.
Not only did I not want to forget, but I almost did. When I started filming, this was at the very beginning. It was a Sunday. It was January 13th, uh, 2019, and I started filming 4:56 is what the properties tell me. Now hopefully I had my camera set for daylight savings time. Um, who knows? Uh, but on the second part of this, you'll see how what I call the angle of light, as the angle of light changes from hitting the surface of the water, um, it it does create more of a mirroring effect, but it's like again back towards those islands, um, and then sometimes I notice different times how the to the south of me I get cut off by the mirroring directly out in front of me. Man, I can see it. It looks like for miles and miles and miles. And then when I go to my north, um, I get sometimes better visibility, but it can also get cut off too. And then I've had where everything in front of me is cut off, but I get good visibility to the north and the south, and vice versa on the first one. So there is a big difference, and I think it has to do with again temperature, water temperature, um, and the clean, drier air. Maybe there's an offshore breeze or an onshore breeze keeping the humidity down or the evaporation rate down at certain points or certain areas. Or maybe the water's hotter as the tides are going out farther out. These are all things that science I don't think, really ever take into consideration because, and again, what good does it do me to uh, measure the water temperature that's directly in front of me and not be able to measure the temperature out by that boat or even farther out? There is going to be a difference, folks. You might not think so, but it is. Sometimes you get offshore and the water is even colder because of the shallowness. It gets colder in the deeper water and hotter in the shallower water. So this always causes issues with the variations. But when you're looking through long distances of evaporated water or humidity, it does obscure your view. Again, here comes the Billy Steele's rack, and the way I pay attention to some of these details is that sign to the left. Um, there's two of them out there, and I think he already passed one of them, but this one, and just to the right of that, depending again on where I'm at Pine Island. Now, I usually like to set up in that little corner area. Sometimes there's people there, and I, you know, have to film off in another area. But if they move, I move right to that area. It's funny, but you know, I like that spot because it's good for me, so I can do these comparisons and be able to see the difference in them. Um, and again, I used the B700 on this, but it does have its advantages too. Again, like I'm not zoomed in so bad that I am picking up the distortion. Now this boat starts to turn out there, like he's going to turn around, and he actually does eventually. He turns around and starts heading back in. But you can tell he's quite a long ways out there. So again, oh, there was another thing. On January 11th, I put out some videos that I titled um, by request of DMT Matrix or something like that, requested by DMT Matrix. Um, I did a couple series on that on January 11th. So take a look at that video, and then take a look at In Search of the True Horizon. My last two videos were about that. Um, and there was 6 parts to that, but if you got the time, this is where I did a bunch of them right in a row, and you can see the difference from day to day to day, the difference in the visibility, and hopefully you'll see the difference too in the Bayport rack on these different days, how it changes so much just on that one, and that's the closest rack to me. So the Bayport entrance rack is the closest one to me. And shoot, what did I do with those papers? Because I wanted to tell you the distance. That Bill Watts rack from Pine Island is looks like I got 4.3. The Hernando Beach rack is 6.04, and the Billy Steele's rack's at 8.4. Now these were measurements that I used with my navigation map, and I just have an issue of where I'm actually at on those maps. So give or take a little bit, but I wouldn't say give or take no more than a half a mile. I'd say if anything, you could take a half a mile. But I'll try to add in the other racks and some of my other videos and the distances. And I'll also try to throw in the racks for the Matrix breakout video, because I think I did that from Bayport. I'll try to give you all the distances to those racks in one of the videos. Maybe it'll be this next part. All right, I'm going to end this. So again, who's ever watching this, um, it's going to be an unlisted video. It's just going to be for people that really appreciate my work. All right, thanks for watching, folks.